So, is your Uber ride about to get 80% cheaper? And if so, where is that savings coming from? Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and you might have noticed there's only one video today. A little unusual for this channel. Normally I have multiple videos, but when you're watching this, it is actually the past for me, and today was Memorial Day, and I did what most Americans did. I celebrated, went to a barbecue, visited with friends, afterwards watched X-Men First Class with Katie because she wants to watch Dark Phoenix and hasn't really watched the X-Men movie, so we got to do at least the semi-rebooted movies first. And there also wasn't a lot of news anyway, so coming home, it was really hard to figure out what stories to make a video about, but several people actually emailed me about this one, and probably for good reason. It's a story, I would even argue a myth, that does not seem to go away, and as of yet has no leg to stand on. This is actually going to be the future, and we're going to discuss it. But before we do, we're going to have a word from our sponsors. Times are changing for gig workers and the gig economy, and there are a lot more gigs from a lot more companies than there used to be. That's why when people ask me where they can go to find resources for the gig economy, I recommend gigworker.com. At this site, you can see what other gig workers are doing and discover better opportunities from industries, companies, resources, and even a forum where you can talk with other people in the gig economy. Gigworker.com is a great resource site whether you work for Uber, Lyft, Postmates, DoorDash, TaxRabbit, Thumbtack, Upwork, whatever. There's a gig for you and there's a forum for you on gigworker.com. Gigworker.com for all your gigs. So here's the Business Insider article, and it has a attention-grabbing headline. Your Uber ride could get 80% cheaper over the next decade. Now, that will definitely get your attention. I mean, I just used Uber fairly recently to go to Disneyland, and it was $7.49 plus a $5 tip. Now, the tip, obviously, that's on me. I'm happy to pay that tip, but I've got a let's just say $8 ride, and it's going to get 80% cheaper, so it's going to be like $2, like less than $2. How on earth are they going to do it? Like, that is a headline that when you remember what your last Uber or Lyft trip is, you immediately click on it to find out what is going on, and that's why a lot of people email me the story. And I'm sure that this is also the reason that people sent me this story. Uber and Lyft are worth a combined $84 billion after their massive initial public offerings this year, but that's only a small fraction of what UBS estimates the global robo-taxi markets can grow to by 2030. And in the first paragraph, I don't even know if that's a paragraph, that's really just a sentence, to be honest, you see where the problem with this article is. I'm not going to go so far as to say that this is actually a clickbait article, because they do discuss a method in which they believe that Uber rides will be 80% cheaper by 2020. However, we already know what this is. This is not an article that's going to look at any realistic situation in which your Uber rides get any cheaper. They're going to assume that technology is going to grow to a pretty massive state of affairs that it can't be ignored and will do nothing but lower costs. I'll give them this credit, though. 2030, that's about 11 years away. So it's nice that journalists are starting to have realistic expectations of when the robo-taxi / driverless cars / autonomous vehicles will actually arrive. But hey, let's look at this. I mean, maybe they've got a new convincing argument, or we'll just, shoot holes through this theory like Swiss cheese, and we've done it before. So it says, the bank's evidence lab ran a massive simulation model to estimate the future of ride-hailing in New York City and the impact robo-taxis could have on the space. Their conclusions point to a true $2 trillion robo-taxi market by 2030. Oh, they ran a simulation. Like, what kind of simulation? I mean, you could run guesstimates, but is that a simulation? I don't know. For consumers and riders, perhaps the biggest takeaway of the real-time simulation is that fares could drop significantly over the next decade by as much as 80%, meaning even more competition between car rides and public transportation. Yes, Uber and Lyft do want to compete with public transportation, but they're already subsidizing rides. And they want to get the robo-taxis on the road so that they can start making money, not subsidize the rides anymore. Is market share going to be that important to them in 11 years that they're still going to want to be subsidizing rides to keep market share? Will investors even put up with them anymore at that point? Let's continue. The average fare paid by passengers could fall by more than 80% and become cheaper than a metro ticket, the team of analysts wrote in their lengthy report to clients published on May 22nd. In such a scenario, the robotaxi fleet would still generate a healthy profit margin of more than 30%. I mean, that's nice. They're not really citing any examples on why that would be the case, but okay. That's good news for Uber and Lyft, which are still heavily in the red and they continue to grow, but more bad news for public transportation systems. Multiple studies have already shown that ride-hailing services are quickly siphoning off users from trains and buses. Now, it should be noted, this is one of the few statements they've stated that has a link to a source. And we already know this to be true because you see it. I mean, heck, when my Uber will cost like just a little less than $8 to get to Disneyland, yeah, why would I take the public transportation or pay for their overpriced parking? I'm just going to take an Uber there and back home. So we already see that happening, but that doesn't really have a whole lot to do with what's up here. Autonomy can also help Uber and Lyft cars increase a complicated but closely watched measure known as utilization rates. This fraction for the time a car actually spends carrying a fare-paying passenger was at the core of Lyft's lawsuit to change New York City's minimum wage rules for ride-hailing drivers, which it lost in early May, which, again, is not actually minimum wage change. I always have to point that out. The utilization rate of the robotaxi fleet would reach 50% over a 24-hour shift, UBS writes. This is twice as high as Uber Lyft's utilization rates today and 10 times higher than a private car. First, we have to wait for the inflection point. As the world slowly evolves to that of self-driving, there will be decades where companies must manage human drivers alongside their eventual robot replacements. UPS expects that inflection point to begin in 2019, escalating over the next decade. Oh, and why is it going to happen this year? Do we actually have these cars? I mean, yeah, the cars on the road, but they have drivers in them. So does that count as starting? I mean, I guess you have to start somewhere, but that's not a huge vote of confidence. Once the inflection point is reached, we believe the growth rate for robotaxi adoption will be steep, the analyst said. We remain confident that the robotaxi business model works both financially and technologically, although we delay our forecast for robotaxi penetration by 1 to 2 years, mostly to reflect higher efficiency on the fleet as shown in our simulation, i.e. fewer cars are required to cover demand. And that's pretty much where it ends. You know, if Mike Judge could read this article and if Beavis and Butthead was still in production, at one point they'd have like Butthead going like, they said penetration. Like 1 to 2 years. Like it'd be something like that because did I even read these articles? So here's the thing. We've been through this before, and I'm gonna reiterate my point. The robotaxis will not be cheaper. In fact, they're going to be more expensive. I find it interesting that they suggest that with robotaxis, they could decrease the prices by 80%. First of all, I don't know where they get the idea that Uber and Lyft would want to do that. I mean, outside of keeping market share, there's no real advantage to them. They want the robotaxis to make money. It kind of really bones them with the investors if after years of saying, hey, our unprofitable business that we could get profitable as long as we can get rid of those pesky drivers. Hey, guess what? We got rid of those pesky drivers. We are still screwed. We still don't have any money. Yeah, that's not going to be good for their business. So there's no reason to think Uber and Lyft would even want to drop the prices by 80%. But even if they could, well, no, they couldn't do that. Like, because they could never do that. Because that's the second point. As I've pointed out many, many times, Uber and Lyft don't own cars. They don't pay the maintenance. They don't buy the gas. They don't charge the cars. They don't do any of this. That's right now falls completely on the driver. And it's one of the main reasons drivers leave, because they start adding up the costs and realizing, oh yeah, the car washes, the oil changes, the brake pad replacements, all that stuff. It's not matching up with what we're making. Well, Uber is going to come with that same dilemma once they start having their robo-taxis. And not only will they inherit these expenses, their expenses will be worse. Because people in general, don't respect other people's properties. I mean, you should see how my car was trashed when I was driving it. People have pointed out, when there's no driver in the car, people they will not treat it so respectfully. And there's no way for the cars to know, like, say, if they were puked in or if cigarettes were put on the seats. There's no way to test for these things so far. So you're going to have a bunch of people who get subpar, worn-out cars. Uber's going to have to pay the maintenance. They're going to have to pay to clean them. You're going to need to monitor how these cars are treated in the first place. I mean, at that point, it's your property that's being destroyed, so you're going to have to start suspending drivers who mistreat your car. And once you start doing that, you're going to deactivate the vast majority of the low-class rideshare population. Not all of them. I know there's some fiscally concerned passengers who do take care of the vehicles. But we're talking about the drunks and the pot smokers. We're talking about, like, the people who want the moon for $2.25. They're going to treat these cars like garbage. And you're going to have to start suspending them, but they're what contributed to a lot of your market share. So you're going to have to pay for more maintenance, pay for more cleanings, and you're going to have to start deactivating customers. This does not suggest that the business will grow. In fact, it suggests the business will shrink. And you want to talk about lowering costs? No. No, this Business Insider article is trash. And Business Insider, I've got a love-hate relationship, because I'm always wondering what Business Insider's angle is. I really do. Because they seem to go through spurts where it's like they will support certain companies and they won't support others. Uber, they've been very wishy-washy on. They one week will say, hey, this thing isn't working, it's not making money, it'll probably never make money, to then this week saying, like, oh, hey, give it 11 years and you will not only have a profitable company, but people in general will be paying 80% less of their fares for Uber and Lyft. Yeah, I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. But you know what? There you go. Oh, by the way, look at this little chart that they have here that I just highlighted. Figure average utilization rate over 24-hour period. Yeah, robo-taxis, they don't have drivers, so they will drive more, but then they still need gas and maintenance. And I mean, we're just starting to realize that brand new cars we get maybe 5 years out of when we do heavy ride sharing with them, like maybe 5 years. And these things are going to be around all the time. You think they're going to last 5 years? Anyway, I'm kind of done with this. I'm sure I'm going to talk about this topic again, but this is what we have to talk about today. I'm going to have an extra video tomorrow, so tomorrow might be 3 videos. And there's one that I wanted to upload today, but it's going to take a little bit longer. So, you know, I enjoyed Memorial Day. Hopefully all of you enjoyed Memorial Day. What do you think about this? Like I said, this is very, very close to clickbait. It might even be clickbait because they didn't really prove their point. But anyway, what do you think? I'd love to know. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but it's $1 a month. It goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly. You get access to my Patreon's exclusive blog. Also, if gas prices are getting you a little down, check out the GetUpside app below. It's totally free. You'll get cash back on every gas purchase. Check us out on the Apptrepreneur vlogs. We're going to start uploading daily content as soon as possible. And if you want to talk to me or other people on this channel, check us out at the Apptrepreneur Hangouts on Facebook. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.